I wondered how to bring something from God's Word to honor men and women who have served, yet still be able to help you to either know God, know about God, or know how to walk with Him. Because if I don't do one of those two things, I've failed in my task. And I wasn't sure how I was going to do this. But the Lord showed me the text that was to be the key, and that is to be prepared. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 34. Let me give you background. Israel had been under attack. Their king was standing before them. The Philistines were on the other side. Philistines had this big dude named Goliath. And we're talking about showing up big. Okay? This guy was close to 9 feet tall. And every day he'd go out there and he'd say, send me somebody to fight, and if I whip him, you become our servants. And if he whips me, we become your servants. So this has been going on and on and on. David came because he had been sent by his family to take some provisions to his brothers who were on the front line. And when he got there, he sees this event. He sees the army of Israel on one side, lined up for battle, and the army of the Philistines on the other side, and this big old guy coming out there and saying, come on, you dogs. Come on, you little scrawny cowards. Send somebody out to fight me. Well, I want you to know that went through David. And it just hurt him that somebody would do that and mock the God of Israel. So here we are. David has gone to Saul and says, listen, I'm going to go out there and face that guy. I'm going to go out there and whip him for you. And Saul says to David, listen, you're nothing but a young guy, and this guy has been a warrior from his youth. Now, how do you become a warrior at 40 if you're not a warrior at a young age? Well, David was just basically saying, this ain't my first battle, but this will be the first one that I take the head of a human. So David is getting ready to go. So verse 34, but David said to Saul, your servant was tending his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went out after him and attacked him. Folks, I'm going to tell you something. I've worked around both lions and bears. Polar bears consider humans fair game. And I used to have to feed them at the zoo. I was always very, very careful. Now, he said, I attacked the lion, and I rescued it from his mouth. When he rose up against me, and just so you'll know, if you take a piece of meat from a lion or a bear, they're going to rise up against you. They're not going to say, oh, I'm sorry, was that yours? I didn't realize that was your sheep. I thought that was your neighbor's sheep. I would have never taken that if I'd known it was yours. No. He fought back. When he rose up against me, I seized him by his beard, and I struck him, and I killed him. He did not have an assault rifle. He did not have a bayonet. He had two weapons. What were they, friends?
Slingshot.
23rd Psalm says what a shepherd's weapons were. His rod and his staff. One was a long stick and one was a short stick with a ball on the end, usually a root ball. He said, I had these, and he said, I attacked him. He says, I went out after him, and I attacked him, and I rescued him from his mouth. He rose up against me. I seized him by his beard. I struck him, and I killed him. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted the armies of the living God. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. Now, David didn't wait until he met a giant to learn how to fight. He didn't go to school and learn how to fight everybody but giants. He had never seen a giant before. But just like Chesty Fuller, the Marine, says, hey, that just means there's more of them. Shoot anywhere, you're going to get one. Chesty Fuller. Folks, whenever you see a giant in front of you, and you think that you can't do anything about it, it's because you haven't been practiced fighting other things. And David, he had experience. He didn't wait till he had to learn to fight a giant to learn the battle. He learned how to fight because there were reasons worth fighting for in his life. And folks, today, people don't fight for what they want, they whine for it.
That's right.
Or they demonstrate. They set our cities on fire. They hold us hostage. I had this fleeting look at something on Facebook the other day, and I couldn't find it to go back and read it because I was too fast. I was looking at it too fast, and I just was killing time. But it had a bunch of these people standing out on a runway going to stop an airplane coming in. Protesters need to learn there are a few things that don't stop for your whining. Airplanes coming in for a landing are one of those things. David learned to fight because there was a reason. There was something worth fighting for. If you don't have anything that's worth fighting for in your life, you probably are missing a lot. Look what David told King Saul before he went out to kill the lion, to fight Goliath. He said he had killed a lion and he killed a bear with a club in his bare hands. Now I want you to notice something that you may have missed before. See if I can go back. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear. If you've never been around lions and bears, you need to understand this. They have two sets of weapons. One are their claws on all 4 feet, and the other are their teeth. You may be able to stick something in their mouth, but they're going to use those claws. I'm going to guarantee you, when David fought the lion and the bear, he felt the impact of those claws. He walked away and he didn't know which was his blood or which was the lion or the bear's blood. Folks, being a Christian is not a safe thing. It never has been. Sometimes you're going to get bloodied. Sometimes our people who fought and fight for us get bloodied. He had never fought against a giant, but he had fought enemies that could not only kill him, but could eat him. You do realize that David had looked at that bear and said, you know what, bear, I'm going to whip you. And he went out there and he hit that bear on the head, and that bear turned around and he didn't kill that bear. He wasn't going to eat mutton that day. He was going to eat nut. The lion or the bear could have killed David, and there he was. He had been delivered from those razor-sharp paws, and yet he won. Why? Because he had been charged with one simple task. David, go protect those sheep. Take care of those sheep. Feed those sheep. Watch over those sheep. Jesus said, I'm the good shepherd, and the good shepherd gives his life for his sheep. When I went to Florida City, one of the deacons asked me a question that I didn't understand. I've used this illustration before. I didn't understand it at the time, but I understand it after I'd been there for 8 years or 10 years. Charlie Shank said, Pastor, will you take a bullet for this church? And I was thinking he was talking figuratively. Except for the fact that at least 2 pastors and 3 deacons had been shot from the time that I went there in the 90s to the time I left to come here to Walton County. You see, David had been charged to protect and take care of those sheep, and there wasn't a lot of them. At least in his brother's estimation, because when he went to his brother said, what are you doing here, and who's watching those few sheep? You see, what David was doing was not considered worthy by his brothers who had gone off to war. He said, who's taking care of those few sheep? David had been charged to protect these things. Don't let go of them. He had never fought a giant, but he knew that enemies that he had fought could eat him. America has been blessed with men and women who have been willing to face bears, to face lions. In Vietnam, they faced tigers. Oh yes, we lost a lot of soldiers to tigers in Vietnam. When the Illinois was shot down after the end of World War II, Japan had actually surrendered, and it shot down over the 1,000 and something people that went into the water. Only a few came out. And one group of 80 that had huddled together, only 17 survived because they were eaten by sharks. Folks, we need to understand, we've had men and women over the ages who were willing to say, I will do this. I will put my life on the line for an ideal called freedom. And it is an ideal. It's not an absolute. Because you see, you need to understand something. My freedom ends where yours begins. I do not have the freedom to just exercise any will that I have, because you have freedom too. You have the right to say, here is the line that separates the two of us. And I don't have the right, simply because of my freedom, to transgress that line and say, well, I just do whatever I want to. Husbands have freedom, but they have accountability to their wives. Wives have freedom, but they have accountability to their husbands. Parents have freedoms, but they have accountabilities to their children. You see, no freedom is endless. And yet, men and women put their lives on the line for an ideal called freedom. Some were forced to give the full measure on the field of blood.